Okay, so here's the second part of the MIDI effects tutorials. This one is using another MIDI effect that comes with a Logic, which is the chord trigger. So if you didn't watch the first one about arpeggiator, you might want to watch it first just to go over some basics of what MIDI effects are, or you can just risk it and go with it here. So I have a software instrument. Again, I do need it to be a software instrument to use these MIDI effects. I'm going to go in and choose an instrument. This time I think I'll use Alchemy. I'm going to go to pads. Let's see, let's just find one that sounds interesting. That works well enough. So I'm going to add a MIDI effect. Again, if I go to MIDI effects down in my channel strip, I of course have the arpeggiator that we just looked at. I have several others that I can do, but one is called the chord trigger. Kind of neat little plug-in, in that it allows me to play a single note, and then it'll actually add notes to me. Again, MIDI, it's adding MIDI information to say, we'll play this note. So I'm just going to play a single white key, a C. And you hear that the default generic, factory default setting, it plays, as you see in the orange area below, it adds a bunch of notes. Added 3 notes above that C, as you can see in that area. So what it in fact added was a minor 7th chord. Not that I expect you to know that, but that's the particular chord that it added. If I play another note, different notes, but it's playing the same chord. That is, the default setting is to play a minor 7th chord. So all I'm playing is a white key. You can see in the blue keyboard up above, it's showing me which note am I playing, but the orange is then showing me what is the output, what is being added. So, okay, great. I didn't have to actually manually play those things, but I do have lots of presets. So I can go down here and I can say, okay, I want to do one that's a guitar voicing. I don't have a guitar sound, but maybe I want to use actual guitar open chords. So you see how it kind of changed the trigger range, although I can certainly widen that if I want. But now if I play a single note, you see down below, and it's basically done what a guitarist might do voicing. And notice that's completely different than the first one. It did lower notes, it spaced it differently. So it's kind of thinking, well, if you're playing these on a guitar, here's how you do that. Might be useful if you're using a guitar sample that doesn't play chords by itself. This could be useful to sound a little more realistic. I also have things like keyboard voicings. What voicings would I use if I was maybe doing blues with my left hand, blues with my right hand? I could do that. I could also do parallel chords. So if I, again, want 7th chords. In this case, it's doing diatonic chords, that is all on the white keys. The black keys won't even play anything with that particular setting. But I can play up. It's always going to be all skipping every other white key. Which are, for those who are maybe more music theory savvy, is playing 7th chords, but it's altering what type of 7th chord. First was a major 7th, then a minor 7th, and another minor 7th. So it's just doing different types based on which white keys make that up. You could also click on single, where I'm saying, oh, it'd be cool if you could do some extended harmonies like this major 7, sharp 9, 11, 13. It's like that. Again, play one note. Kind of crazy out there chord. But it may be harmonies that you have never really thought of using that are so simple to do with this little plug-in that's doing it for you. Maybe I want to do, let's do, that'll be kind of crazy dissonant. I'll see what Again, pretty cool type of chords that you can do. Now I can also do something where I can say, I want to basically have it do the chord. So when I say, well, when I play an actual note, that it's going to actually clear that. I basically tell it what chord to play. So if I say, okay, if you have this, now I'm going to go to my keyboard and play what I want to happen when that note is played. Okay, so now it turned it off learn mode. Now I'm going to play that one note again. Now if I play another note, it's basically assigned it to, you know, every key. It's going to play that same type of chord. So it's doing the work for me. I could also go to multi and I could say, well, learn that, but I'm going to program every single chord on every single note. So I could voice it however I want. That's getting way more complicated, but I could absolutely do that if I wanted to really have control over that. So again, I'm going to go back and just put this on the default. I'm going to go recall default. And that was my minor third. Now I'm going to record something with this. Again, I've got to make sure my tempo is what I want. Let's make this about 100. Okay, so again, what I'm recording is just one note at a time, but it's going to add in all those other notes for me through the plugin. And that's all I need. I'm getting to quantize that. Should have done before I started, but I forgot. Okay, that was eighth note, was where I was hitting those kind of syncopated things. Okay, so you can see everything's kind of aligned where it needs to be within that. All right, so cool, it's adding those notes for me. Of course, notice that both within the range view, but again, if I double click, which I just did, you'll see only one note was actually played, right? And that's all that's actually in the region. Basically what's happening is that whenever I play this, it's then sent to the chord, chord trigger, and it adds the notes. That's then what we ultimately hear. So that's kind of cool. I can add notes, but you could also do this in combination with other effects. So in other words, I could go down here and say, now I want those chords to go into an arpeggiator. So I still don't have to play the chords. I still only played one note, but it then first went into the chord trigger, added a bunch of notes, and then sent all of those notes to the arpeggiator. Let's just leave it on its default settings here and hear what it sounds like. And so maybe we want to alter that in some way, make it more interesting. Just throw some stuff around here. So pretty cool. Of course, all I need to maybe do is add something like, let's add a drummer track in here. Oh, I think I still have some sections in here from when I was doing that previous tutorial. So I'm going to ignore all those. Okay. So I've got my little section. I'm going to actually change this to be whatever pattern. Maybe I want this to be instead of this. Let's do a electronic. Let's use Jasper. Sure. Here are the sounds with it. Okay, so I was just kind of bringing up alchemy there to kind of alter the sound a bit. I could just move it around these 8 different variations of that one sound, so find something that I liked even better. So just playing around with ways I can do that. Of course, I was really messing around mostly with the arpeggiator, which was creating most of the interesting stuff. But I had to, of course, trigger it with the chord trigger first to give it all those notes to play with, since all I recorded, as you see at the bottom, was a single note. So it's a very cool way to kind of add things to your MIDI content by using some of these MIDI plugins, MIDI effects. So have fun with that.